Well, I'm back finally. I couldn't believe when I looked at my site that it's been well over a month, maybe even closer to 40 days since I've actually done a video. And the reason for that are twofold. Really had a chest thing going on, cough, couldn't hardly talk for a while. And I've been doing some changes in my music instruments I'm playing. I've taken guitar up again. I put that on hold for 3 years. So I'm playing guitar and uke, both nylon string and steel string guitar. So I've been turning over selling some of the ukes, buying some guitars, etc., etc. So in the process of doing that, I was on Facebook, made a post or comment on a post about Baritone Ukulele and how much I like it. And someone said, I don't understand why someone would play a baritone ukulele instead of a six-string guitar or like a nylon string guitar. So I responded to them, gave them some reasons, and they were very helped by that comment. So I thought, well, why don't I do that for my YouTube channel and my uke blog, so people will have a general idea of what the difference is. Some of that is obvious, some maybe not so much. But why play one or the over the other? Why not just play both? Or why not start with the one and then go with the other? So I just want to talk a little bit about the baritone ukulele and classical guitar, also known as nylon string guitar. These are not reviews on these instruments. I reviewed the baritone ukulele, have not reviewed the nylon string Cordova. I may do that in the future. So let's take a look first of all and just look at maybe some pluses and minuses of the different instruments. This is a baritone ukulele. This is, now, the scale, when I talk about scale, it's from your saddle to your nut, okay? This area of the strings. First of all, this is a much smaller instrument, obviously. I'll show you a comparison in just a second. But the scale on this is 20 inches. Has 4 strings that are nylon. And the advantages to this are, there's probably a few of them. First of all, you have 4 strings. So I would say, having played both of them, that this would be considered by many, especially a beginner, to be easier to play because you're only using 4 fingers. Also, the spacing of the strings. There's a lot more space between these strings to put your fingers if you're doing any kind of finger picking versus a 6-string guitar of any kind. Nobody has this kind of spacing. Now, the fact that you have a scale of 20 inches makes this instrument a little easier to play. The shorter the scale, the easier it is for you to press down on the strings. So when I started playing ukulele, my initial one was a tenor, and then I set that aside, and basically what it is, went to soprano, concert, tenor, baritone. Soprano is 13 inches. Super easy to play and press down the strings. For you, if you've never played an instrument, anything along the lines of a ukulele will probably be fairly simple for you to press down the strings. Very easy. So that makes it easier. When I was talking to that gentleman on the Facebook page, it was one of the ukulele groups, I said, as we get older, our hands get a little bit weaker. And therefore, for some of us who really enjoy instruments, stringed instruments, and enjoy the nylon string sound as I do, the baritone has advantages because it's easier to play, easier to push the strings down. It's not as hard on my hand, especially if you've never played. Now, a couple of things. First of all, with the baritone ukulele and most ukuleles, you have a thinner nut, usually around 1 5/8, maybe 1.5 inches. So it's easy for you, especially if you have small hands like I do. My hands are what I would call normal size, but you can see I have stubs for fingers. I can barely, with an index finger, play a classical guitar and do a bar chord. So it's easier for me to do a bar chord on a baritone ukulele. And I have a little bit of room left there. It's not as hard to press down. It's easier to press the strings, and I have obviously more room not only down here if I want to finger pick, but I also have more room up here to chord. So it's a lot easier. Now, I highly recommend ukulele in general. Everybody has their favorite. I've played them all. I like them all. Right now I'm playing just tenor and baritone. I've got rid of the sopranos in the concerts, mainly because as the scale gets shorter, the spaces between the frets get smaller and it's a little more difficult to finger. For some. Now for some it's great. They love that space for the soprano and the concert, especially if they're young kids. I started my grandkids all out on concert or soprano ukuleles so they could actually make the chords. So that's the baritone. Now let's quickly, before we talk about the classical, let's just look at the size difference, which is fairly obvious, and I don't know how I'm going to do this on camera, but here we go. Here's the top of your together, the headstock, and you can see that the classical is way bigger. Your classical guitar won't even probably fit barely even in the frame. Now, one of the other things about the ukulele, before I move on to this, that I love is the portability of it. It's easy to carry. Throw it in a gig bag or a hard case. It doesn't take up hardly any room. Even the baritone, which is the largest of the ukuleles, by and large. Super easy to carry and transport, and I just love that. I love that smaller size. Now, when you move to this, now this particular guitar is a 7/8 size. It's called a Dulce by Cordoba. Slightly under 25-inch scale. So the distance between your nut and your saddle is almost, on this one, 25 inches. Most guitars are over 25 inches. And so you can see right away there's a couple of things. It's going to be a little harder to play as far as pressing down, but it's a much bigger instrument. Now, in that, the longer scale, your distance between your frets are much bigger. Can be an advantage for some, especially if you have very long fingers. A disadvantage for some, like me, making certain chords, I just can't do it. It's physically not possible for me to play, so I have to work around that. So let's talk about the classical guitar, okay? Classical guitar, 6 strings, obviously, nylon, almost a 25-inch scale. The strings are, as you can see, much closer together. So that means in chording a chord up here, it's going to be more difficult. And in finger picking down here, it's also going to be more difficult than the baritone ukulele. Really, it is, but it isn't. It's really, what are you used to? It's not difficult at all for me now. But when I first got this instrument, going from the baritone to this, I just got, my muscle memory kicked in, and I couldn't even do a chord because I was trying to finger it like a ukulele. Same thing down here. These are much closer together. Now it's not a problem. So really a lot of it is, what are you used to? Give yourself a chance. Don't pick it up and go, oh, there's no way. What? A week from now you'll be going, oh, this is awesome. But it does take practice, obviously. This is a much bigger instrument. It's obviously takes more to transport in a gig bag or a hard case, to handle, to physically hold. Some people don't like full-size instruments, which this one is just slightly smaller than a full-size classical guitar. Because they're students, they're young, they might be adults, but they're shorter. I'm 5'7", so it's comfortable for me. But it's a little more difficult. The thing at times, the most difficult thing about playing classical guitar, and I've played classical, literally studied classical years ago, is the nut. A classical guitar nut is around 2 inches wide. It might be slightly under, might be slightly over, but figure 2 inches. This is 1 5/8, this baritone. Some are 1.5, a little bit more. So you can see right away, this is going to be a stretch, a big stretch. Now, for me, if I do a bar chord, you can see, if you can see that, I don't have but a little bit of my finger sticking over the edge. I can barely do it. I can do it, but it's not easy to do. And it takes a lot of practice. So I would say, play what you enjoy and feel comfortable with. If someone said to me, you know, I'd like to try the nylon string guitar, I would say to them, great, well then get a half size or a 3/4 size. A 3/4 size Cordoba Protege right now is about $140 or $50. It has a nut of 1 7/8, so it's thinner. It has a shorter scale, 22 plus inches, so a little bit longer than a baritone, but it's not nearly as big as this. Not nearly as big. Great couch guitar. So I would say start with that and work your way up. Even if you're an adult, I'm probably going to buy one just for the couch. Now, when I'm on the couch, I like to play leaning back, watching baseball. I don't want to sit up on the edge. I do that during the day. But at night, I want something small. So the Baritone Ukulele works perfect for that. In closing, I would say, great instrument. By the way, if you're thinking of buying a nylon string, Cordoba builds a fantastic instrument. Great prices. Love them. Just love this one. I've had a few Cordobas. This is the Dulce. It means parlor. It's 7/8. I may do a review on this later. But if it's all new to you, it may be, depending on what your size is, that you might pick this up and go, this thing's like playing a whale. You might pick up the baritone and say, oh, that's awesome. Now, in closing, because I've only got a couple minutes. Advantage to the guitar. Quickly, you have 6 strings instead of 4. So you can do things on this that you cannot do on the baritone. You can play the same song. You can strum. You can do a little bit of finger picking on the baritone, but you cannot do walk downs and walk ups like you can on a regular guitar. You can't do that. Why? Because you don't have these 2 strings. You don't have the E and the A. So that actually is what led me to pick up the guitar again, because I've led worship for years and I miss the walk-ups and the walk-downs and that real low bass note. Obviously with this, you just can't do it. There is no, you can play a D. There you go. D, right? So this is a D. But you have to realize that when you play other chords on a guitar, usually when you play another chord like a C, there's 2 C notes on the guitar. Here, there's only 1 right here. This is not a C, so you're not playing a C bass. Okay, this would be a D sharp, so this is an E. So that's another one of the disadvantages, if you will, to the baritone. So anyway, in closing, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps. I hope it helps you make a choice. And any comments, make them down here. Questions, I will look and answer any questions that I can about these. And I'll probably, if you look on my uke blog or my YouTube channel, I have reviewed the baritone. This is one of my, well, it's the only one I have now, so obviously it's my favorite. And I may be reviewing some of the guitars I purchased in the last 6 weeks. Okay? All right, God bless. Enjoy. Glad I'm able to come back and do another recording, so I'm feeling a lot better.